They've had a big fight, like two kids in a schoolyard. You know, they fight like hell. You can't stop them. Let them fight for about 2-3 minutes, then it's easy to stop them.
And then Daddy has to sometimes use strong language.
You have to use strong language. Every once in a while, you have to use a certain word.
Mark Rutte, the NATO chief, who is your friend, he called you daddy earlier. Do you regard your NATO allies as kind of children?
No, he likes me. I think he likes me. If he doesn't, I'll let you know. I'll come back and I'll hit him hard, okay? No? He did it very affectionate. Daddy, you're my daddy.
So I don't like anything of any of that just happened. In particular, the last bit. I feel like we could have cut that video off a few seconds earlier, because as much as I don't want to hear someone who purports to be a full-grown adult male calling Donald Trump daddy, I definitely don't want to hear Donald Trump referring to himself as daddy in the third person. That's like almost cosmically disturbing. We need a nation full of psychologists to look into that. But anyway, I'm gonna set aside Donald Trump and all his problems. We'll return to that in a little bit. But let's talk about Mark Rutte, I believe it is, the NATO Secretary-General, who now will be known as the guy who called Trump daddy, which is fun. Thank you for doing that to yourself. This isn't like Stephen Miller doing it or Marco Rubio. This is a guy with some degree of power and he's choosing to do it. So now he's gonna clarify. It's too late, the damage is done, but here is his clarification.
The daddy thing, I didn't call him daddy. What I said is that sometimes in Europe, I hear sometimes countries saying, hey Mark, will the US stay with us? And I said, that sounds a little bit like a small child asking his daddy, hey, are you still staying with the family? So in that sense, I use daddy, not that I was calling President Trump daddy.
Stop saying daddy. Like, I'm begging you to stop saying it, whether in clarifications or follow-ups, just stop saying it. Now look, could he make the case that he wasn't actually saying in that first moment that Trump was daddy, just that sometimes in the metaphor of two kids fighting, daddy needs to do that? Maybe. Still very disturbing. The idea that you sign on to that metaphor as if that makes sense to apply to Israel and Iran. Like, you had one of the two kids in this metaphor just brutally attack the other because they didn't want diplomacy between the second kid and the third kid to work. The metaphor falls apart. It's stupid either way. But anyway, he can at least pretend that he's not a guy who goes around calling him daddy. The issue for all of us is that there are others who do it very enthusiastically. I will remind all of you that Tucker Carlson is one of those types of guys. He said this about Trump as a leader back before the election. When dad gets home, you know what he says? You've been a bad girl, you've been a bad little girl, and you're getting a vigorous spanking right now. Grinning, he went on, and no, it's not going to hurt me more than it hurts you. No, it's not. I'm not gonna lie. This is gonna hurt you a lot more than it hurts me. And you earned this. You're getting a vigorous spanking because you've been a bad girl. Now, if you have not actually watched that clip, his delivery definitely makes it at least 50% worse, just to be clear. And I also just want to throw this out because I didn't think of it when I first saw that video months ago, but I Googled it after this. And I'm sorry for saying this. Tucker Carlson has 2 daughters. And he just, all of whatever that was. You've been a bad little girl and you're gonna get a vigorous spanking. It's not gonna hurt me. It's gonna hurt you more. I don't know for sure that anything weird has happened, but he chose to say, that was a script he was reading when he said that. He planned to do the weird daddy spanking thing. Anyway, it was super weird then, it's weird now. I don't know why all of these guys, no, that's not true. I was gonna say, I don't know why they bow down to Donald Trump, why they rhetorically and politically cuck themselves to him, but I do. It's a prerequisite to have an audience and to make money and to have influence in this time. Donald Trump has gobbled up the entirety of the conservative, swath of Americans. He's eaten the Republican Party, and if they want to have a little bit of his crumbs, they need to do this. They need to call him daddy. Not just him, by the way. Mel Gibson said daddy arrived and he's taking his belt off. That's when Trump came to California. Because again, for both Tucker Carlson and Mel Gibson, being daddy means beating people. That's what it's about fundamentally. I'm not going to say that I know everything about Mel Gibson. There's nothing else that he's revealed about himself for the last couple decades that would make you think that he's a dark person with serious problems or anything. But he loves the idea of the strong man beating people. But don't call it fascist. Don't you ever imply that there's some sort of philosophical or ideological connection to these other dark political movements that are founded on power and violence and all of that. Nothing like that at all. Anyway, I want to go to one more individual. This is State Senator Jonathan Lindsay talking about this, and stick around to the end because Senator Jeremy Moss jumps in. It's going to be pretty fun. Let's take a look.
A lot of people in America have come to think of President Trump as a sort of father figure. And indeed, this morning, we even saw the leadership of NATO refer to him as daddy. So maybe in these resolutions going forward, we could have a little bit of recognition of like daddy Trump is who we're going to oppose or something like that. Get creative with it. But in the meantime, please vote no on these resolutions.
You don't want to know what daddy means in my community.
I think I can guess. I think I know where you're going with that. So at least somebody is having fun with this. But anyway, yeah, stop with the daddy stuff. Like look, if you want to do it just as a fun thing, an ironic thing about a politician, like that's fine. But if you ever catch me talking about like Daddy Bernie or something, oh God, I don't. Again, it's why I've been engaged in a years-long battle to try to save right-wing men from this self-destructive loser masculinity that they've been conned into by right-wing grifters. Going around talking about how, oh, this other man is my daddy. That could be something. Again, as that gentleman, as the state senator said, in certain subcultures, that's a cool thing or whatever. But that's not your subculture. At least you don't admit to it publicly. So why are you doing that? I'll never understand it. I'll also just point out, oh, and also the White House posted this tweet, by the way. They love this idea of him being daddy. I'm not gonna go on a long thing about this because I started to think about it a lot and then I Googled it and apparently Charlemagne made a point like this. If you were gonna have a metaphor of Donald Trump as a father figure, he is literally the worst father figure you can imagine, both in this metaphor and also in real life. He's a crap dad. Like, look at Don Jr., look at Eric. Ivanka turned out okay, I guess, but he's not a good, this is like the male role model you want. A guy who blusters and lies to protect his reputation, a guy who never admits when he's wrong, never takes responsibility for anything he does, uses violence so casually, not even himself, by the way, orders other men to use violence because he doesn't have the physical prowess to do any of it himself, constantly cheats on the women, has no respect for his wife, has been engaged in one loveless marriage after another throughout his entire life, desperately sucks up to despots and tin pot dictators all around the world because he wants to be cool like them, shouts down anyone that's different than him. This is just an abusive dad. That's all it is. I'm not gonna say there's some better male role models. There's every better male role model in America. They've landed on the worst. Anyway, we're gonna jump into other news in just a sec. AJ Nestor says Trump is not like a daddy. He's very much like that super creepy uncle. Yeah, the guy like creeping into like the changing room at his weird what do you call it, beauty contest and whatever, so he could see 14-year-olds naked and everything. That's the father figure that you want. There's somebody better. Okay.